Picture this. There's a tiny island sitting in the Irish Sea that's basically the Switzerland of the British Isles, except with more attitude, zero inheritance tax, and a history so wild it makes Game of Thrones look like a bedtime story. This place has been playing political chess while everyone else was still learning checkers, and somehow, most people have never even heard of it. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the Isle of Man, where your money goes to hide, your motorcycles go to die, and your sense of what's possible in modern Europe goes to get absolutely obliterated. Fact number 1. The ultimate tax haven that's not actually sketchy. The Isle of Man isn't just tax-friendly, it's tax genius. We're talking zero capital gains tax, zero inheritance tax, and income tax caps that make Swiss bankers weep with envy. But here's the kicker. It's not some shady offshore operation. This place has been perfecting the art of legitimate tax optimization since before your great-grandfather was born. But wait, there's more to this financial wizardry. Fact number 2. It's not even technically part of the UK. Mind blown. Here's where it gets spicy. The Isle of Man is a British Crown dependency, which is basically political speak for we're complicated. They're not in the UK, they're not in the EU, but they're somehow connected to both while answering to neither. It's like being the cool kid who gets invited to all the parties, but never has to help clean up. And speaking of unique political arrangements, fact number 3, they have the world's oldest continuous parliament. The Tynewald has been making decisions since 979 AD. That's right, while most of Europe was still figuring out which end of a sword to hold, the Isle of Man was already running democratic debates. Their parliament is older than England's, older than Iceland's, older than your landlord's excuses for not fixing the heating. But their political genius doesn't stop at age. Fact number 4, women could vote here before anywhere else. In 1881, Isle of Man women gained the right to vote in parliamentary elections, 37 years before the UK, 39 years before the US. While suffragettes were chaining themselves to buildings elsewhere, Isle of Man women were already at the ballot box like, oh, you're just figuring this out now? Speaking of being ahead of the curve, fact number 5, the island that invented modern offshore banking. The Isle of Man didn't just stumble into becoming a financial powerhouse, they engineered it. In the 1960s, while other places were still treating banking like a sleepy local business, the Isle of Man was already building the infrastructure that would make them the offshore banking capital of Europe. And their financial innovation comes with a side of rebellion. Fact number 6, Europe's most notorious smuggling capital. For centuries, the Isle of Man was basically the Amazon Prime of contraband. Hidden coves, secret tunnels, and enough underground networks to make the dark web jealous. They weren't just smuggling tobacco and brandy, they were smuggling with style. Think Pirates of the Caribbean, but with better tax planning. But the real treasure wasn't what they smuggled. Fact number 7, the Great Laxey Wheel is the world's largest working water wheel. Standing 72 feet tall, this engineering marvel from 1854 is still turning today. They call her Lady Isabella, and she's been pumping water out of mines before the Industrial Revolution hit its stride. It's like having a steampunk monument that actually works, because apparently the Isle of Man doesn't believe in building things that break. And they've been engineering the impossible for centuries. Fact number 8, the TT races are basically legal suicide. The Isle of Man TT isn't just a motorcycle race, it's a 37-mile death-defying sprint through public roads at speeds that would make NASCAR drivers need therapy. Over 250 riders have died since 1907, and yet every year, thousands of adrenaline junkies line up like it's Disney World for people with death wishes. But the real danger isn't the speed. Fact number 9, the island has no speed limits outside towns. That's right, on rural roads, you can drive as fast as your car and your life insurance policy will allow. It's the only place in the British Isles where pedal to the metal isn't just an expression, it's a lifestyle choice. Just don't blame us when your rental car insurance premium goes through the roof. And speaking of things that'll shock you, fact number 10, they have their own currency, but it's not crypto. The Isle of Man pound is perfectly legal tender, but try spending it in London and watch the confusion unfold. It's pegged to the British pound, but with their own designs featuring everything from cats to motorcycles. It's like having monopoly money that actually works, but only if you stay on the island. But their economic independence goes deeper than currency. Fact number 11, the island is basically one giant money laundering detector. With some of the world's strictest financial compliance laws, the Isle of Man has turned anti-money laundering into an art form. They're so good at spotting dirty money, they make Swiss bankers look like amateur hour. It's ironic. The former smuggling capital is now the place where shady money goes to get caught. And their commitment to transparency is legendary. Fact number 12. They invented the concept of beneficial ownership. Long before it was trendy, the Isle of Man was already tracking who really owns what. While other offshore centers were playing hide-and-seek with shell companies, the Isle of Man was building databases that would make the NSA jealous. They were being transparent before transparency was cool. But their innovation doesn't stop at finance. Fact number 13. The island has 3 legs, literally. The Isle of Man's national symbol is the triskelion, 3 legs joined at the hip with the mantra, "Whichever way you throw me, I will stand." It's basically the ancient Celtic version of "deal with it." And honestly, it perfectly captures their attitude towards everything, from taxes to motorcycle racing. Speaking of ancient symbols with modern relevance,
fact number 14. They still crown their monarchs at an outdoor ceremony. Every year on July 5th, the lieutenant governor gets crowned at Tynwald Hill in a ceremony that's been happening for over 1,000 years. It's democracy meets medieval pageantry, and it's absolutely bonkers in the best possible way. Imagine if the State of the Union happened on a hill with everyone wearing ceremonial robes. And their commitment to tradition is unwavering. Fact number 15. The island has its own language that nearly died. Manx Gaelic was declared extinct in 1974 when the last native speaker died, but plot twist, the Isle of Man said not today and brought it back from the dead. Now it's taught in schools and spoken by hundreds of people. It's like linguistic necromancy, but with government funding. But their resurrection skills aren't limited to languages. Fact number 16. They have a ferry bridge, and people actually use it. The ferry bridge on the A5 road comes with a local tradition. You have to say "hello ferries" when you cross it, or risk bad luck. Even hardened business executives and motorcycle racers follow this rule. It's the only place on Earth where believing in fairies is considered sound risk management. And their supernatural portfolio is surprisingly extensive. Fact number 17. The island is haunted by a ghostly black dog. The Maudie Doo, pronounced Maw-the-Doo, is a legendary black dog that haunts Peel Castle. Unlike your typical ghost story, this one comes with historical documentation dating back centuries. It's like having Scooby-Doo as a legitimate historical figure, except significantly more terrifying. But their ghost stories pale in comparison to their living legends. Fact number 18. They're home to the world's largest tailless cats. The Manx cat isn't just missing a tail, it's missing a tail for genetic reasons that make it uniquely Isle of Man. These cats have been the island's unofficial mascots for centuries, and they're basically the feline equivalent of the island itself, unique, independent, and slightly mysterious. And speaking of things that are uniquely Isle of Man, fact number 19. The island runs on 19th century steam trains. The Isle of Man Railway has been chugging along since 1873, and they're not stopping anytime soon. These Victorian-era steam engines are still the primary way to get around the island. It's like living in a steampunk novel where the technology actually works. While everyone else upgraded to electric, the Isle of Man said, "Nah, we're good with coal and nostalgia." But their commitment to vintage transportation gets even weirder. Fact number 20. Horse-drawn trams still rule the streets. Douglas runs horse-drawn trams along the seafront like it's 1876, not for tourists, for actual transportation. These horses have been clocking in for work longer than most modern transit systems have existed. It's public transportation with personality, and honestly, it's more reliable than most subway systems. And speaking of reliable systems, fact number 21. The island has never had a single nuclear weapon. In a world where every major power is flexing their nuclear muscles, the Isle of Man has maintained a perfect record of 0 nuclear weapons, 0 nuclear tests, and 0 nuclear threats. They're basically the Switzerland of nuclear non-proliferation, except with better tax rates and fewer mountains. But their peaceful nature doesn't mean they're pushovers. Fact number 22. They once told the European Union to buzz off. When the EU tried to extend certain regulations to the Isle of Man, their response was essentially, "Thanks, but we're good." They maintain a special relationship with the EU that lets them pick and choose which rules to follow. It's like being in a relationship where you get all the benefits, but none of the drama. And their diplomatic skills are legendary. Fact number 23. The island has its own internet domain, .im. The .im domain isn't just cute, it's become a goldmine for instant messaging companies and social media platforms. They've monetized their country code like absolute legends, proving that sometimes the best business strategy is just being yourself. It's digital real estate that prints money. And their digital presence is just the tip of the iceberg. Fact number 24. They're a global hub for online gaming. The Isle of Man isn't just where your money goes to hide, it's where your online poker addiction goes to become legally profitable. They've created a regulatory framework for online gaming that's so good, major companies relocate their entire operations there. It's like Las Vegas, but with better accounting. And their gaming expertise extends beyond the digital realm. Fact number 25. The island hosts the world's largest scallop dredging fleet. The Isle of Man's fishing industry isn't just about cute boats and quaint harbors. They're running the most efficient scallop operation in the world. These waters produce some of the finest seafood on the planet, and they've turned sustainable fishing into a science. It's like having a PhD in seafood. But their maritime expertise goes way beyond fishing. Fact number 26. They have underground smuggling tunnels that still exist. Those old smuggling tunnels aren't just historical curiosities. Many of them are still intact and explorable. Hidden beneath cliffs and connecting to secret chambers, these tunnels are like a real-life treasure map. Except instead of gold, they were moving French brandy and avoiding British taxes. And their underground network was surprisingly sophisticated. Fact number 27. The island was once ruled by Vikings. From 979 to 1265, the Isle of Man was part of the Kingdom of the Isles, ruled by Norse kings who basically treated the Irish Sea like their personal swimming pool. These weren't just raiders, they were sophisticated maritime politicians who turned piracy into statecraft. Think corporate Vikings, with better boats. But their royal connections get even more interesting. Fact number 28. They have their own Lord of Man. Yes, really. The British Crown technically owns the island, but it's administered by the Lord of Man, a title that sounds like it was invented by fantasy novelists, but is completely real. Currently, that's King Charles III, but the island basically runs itself. It's like having a landlord who never shows up and never raises the rent. And their relationship with royalty is delightfully complicated. Fact number 30. The island is a breeding ground for billionaires. The Isle of Man has more millionaires per capita than Monaco, Switzerland, or basically anywhere else you can think of. It's not just a tax haven, it's a wealth multiplication machine. When your effective tax rate is lower than your morning coffee budget, compound interest becomes your best friend. But their wealth concentration creates some interesting dynamics. Fact number 30. They have their own postage stamps and their collectible gold. The Isle of Man stamps aren't just mail delivery, they're miniature works of art that collectors go absolutely wild for. They've turned postage into a profit center, with stamps featuring everything from Harry Potter to vintage motorcycles. It's like having a government-run Etsy shop that actually makes money. And their creative economy is surprisingly robust. Fact number 31. The island has zero unemployment during TT season. Every summer when the TT races roll around, unemployment basically disappears. Hotels, restaurants, mechanics, tour guides, everyone gets work. It's like Christmas, Black Friday, and New Year's Eve all rolled into one economically explosive month. The entire island becomes a pop-up city for speed demons. But their economic cycles are just their charm. Fact number 32. They have puffins, but only on the Calf of Man. The tiny uninhabited island called the Calf of Man is basically a nature preserve where puffins, seals, and other wildlife live their best lives. No humans allowed permanently. It's like having a private nature documentary happening just offshore. The puffins have better housing security than most people in major cities, and their commitment to conservation is impressive. Fact number 33. The island is home to the world's largest Loketon sheep. The Manx Loketon sheep isn't just fluffy, it's got 4 horns and an attitude problem. These sheep are basically the island's version of heavy metal, distinctive, slightly aggressive, and absolutely unique. They've been roaming the island for centuries, and they're not planning to leave anytime soon. But their agricultural prowess extends beyond rebellious sheep. Fact number 34. They make cheese that's literally wrapped in nettles. Manx cheese wrapped in wild nettles isn't just a quirky tradition, it's a genuine delicacy that food critics rave about. They've turned stinging plants into gourmet packaging. It's like having a food scene that's simultaneously medieval and Michelin-starred. And finally, the fact that ties it all together. The island has never been conquered by force. In over 1,000 years of recorded history, the Isle of Man has never been successfully invaded or conquered by military force. They've been sold, traded, and diplomatically transferred, but never defeated. It's like being the diplomatic equivalent of that friend who's never lost an argument, not because they're stronger, but because they're just too clever to beat. So there you have it. The Isle of Man, where tax evasion is legal, motorcycle racing is a death sport, and ferries get
better infrastructure funding than most countries give their citizens. This isn't just Europe's most notorious smuggling island. It's a masterclass in how to be small, smart, and absolutely impossible to ignore. From medieval parliaments to modern tax havens, from ghost dogs to billionaire breeding grounds, the Isle of Man has spent centuries proving that size doesn't matter when you've got strategy, style, and just the right amount of rebellious spirit. If this deep dive into Europe's most fascinating micronation blew your mind, smash that like button harder than a TT racer hitting a corner at 180 miles per hour. Subscribe for more geopolitical gems that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about how the world really works. And drop a comment. Have you ever been to the Isle of Man? Would you move there for the tax breaks, or are you too attached to speed limits and inheritance taxes? Because honestly, after learning all this, I'm half convinced the Isle of Man isn't just playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. They're playing 4D chess while the rest of us are still trying to figure out which piece is the horsey. Until next time, keep questioning the map, because the most interesting places are often the ones hiding in plain sight. Peace out, political nerds.